This is the new data site. It was launched about 6 months ago. And we have different things on here that you can see. We talked about earlier, this is the reporting. And you have the reporting status. This will tell you can click here. You can get to community colleges. You can pick whatever semester you want to look at. You look at your fall data. You look for 2012, and you want to look at your CBM1, the 4, the 9. Get status. It will tell you what the problems are right there. You can also get to all the reporting manuals. So if you want to know what is included, what has changed, you can click here. All the reporting manuals, community and technical colleges, are on here. So we have a lot of information, and that is under the reporting to the coordinating board. We also have some information and okay. I'm not going to go over the accountability system because Julie Eklund's going to be covering that a little bit later. But we have things like developmental ed data. So you can look at two-year colleges, developmental ed data for your colleges, how you're doing for persistence, that sort of thing. Graduation and persistence of two-year institutions. These are some of the ways that we use the data that y'all send us. These are just a few of the very minor ones. The big ones, you have the depth survey, student migration report, that's a big one. That tells you where your students went. So if you do, in a lot of these, you'll notice that you'll have a view XLS and a view PDF. The XLS pulls into a Excel spreadsheet that then you can save onto your own desktop or wherever you want to and manipulate the data further, do some additional analysis. All of that is available here. A PDF version of this one. You can obviously go to whatever college, Amarillo College. This is very small, but it breaks it out into those students who graduated, the non-graduates, core completers. So we break it out a variety of ways, and it gives you information on that. One of the other things, and I'll show you that in just a second, is relatively new. Transfer student success. This is one that y'all may not be aware of. It's relatively new, really small, so Richland College. There's two ways to look at your data. This one has it for Richland College. We look at their total transfer by where they transferred to. We have it broken out by whether they were in developmental ed when they were at your institution or whether when they started college or if they didn't require developmental ed. And then we have it broken out so we show what their GPA within a range, so their GPAs, and then whether they were enrolled the next fall. So this is looking at it from your standpoint into where you send most of your students. You will notice, and we do this on a lot of different reports. We get to other four-year institutions. So if you have fewer than 5 students, this gets back to FERPA. If you have fewer than 5 students going from your institution to a university or to another institution, we roll all of those up. And that way we can still give you the data, but we can't tell you where that student went because then we would be able, it's considered a small cell, and we can't do that for FERPA reasons because then those students can become identifiable. So that is this is a report that very few people have apparently found on our website. So this one I wanted to make sure you were aware of. Another thing, we have this latest news over here, and what we try to do is make sure that everybody's aware of it. We have this regional plan that we mentioned earlier, where we talk about, we divide a lot of our information down into regions. So if you want to look at High Plains, information about High Plains or the Metroplex. The other thing, we have it over here, we have information for policymakers, the parents, media. We get a lot of media requests, and so we have that set up. We get a lot of reporters calling and asking different things, and so that's kind of at a higher level, rolled up information. Institutions and researchers, again, this will get, if you look at that, it gets you to the reporting status and the manuals and the things that are most often used by the institutions. These are things that we get calls and questions about, and that is kind of how we decide what to put on our website. If we keep getting the same call over and over, pretty soon you'll find it on the website, and we'll start sending out a link as to where you can find things on the website. So that is one way of, if you say, well, I'm getting this call and I've got a lot of people that are asking the same information, we start putting it out on our website so that we're not getting career and workforce education. Here's Perkins data of exiting student cohort reports. This is the gainful employment data. So for all of y'all that are interested in gainful employment, we have it by indicators of employment, zip codes, 4-digit, 6-digit, 2-digit, however you would like to see it, it's probably out there. Whether they're working only, and they were academic completers. Take your pick. We have the data out there. Gabriella does a great amount of work on this one. We're working only, working and enrolled. Most of y'all probably know that for the workforce data we only collect their quarterly wages. The workforce does not actually collect hours worked or what the occupation is. So we have an industry code and we have salary. And that's it. We would love to know. One of the things that we have looked at with the working enrolled, a lot of times their salary is lower. So we kind of surmise that they're probably more likely to be working part-time if they're also enrolled. So that's one of the reasons we have it split out that way, to kind of put all that into context instead of averaging all those lower salaries in with the only working piece. Doesn't mean those that are only working are working full-time, but that's about as close as we can get. Let's see. Parents and students, this is one that's very closing the gaps. We have a dashboard now. Gives you a very quick high-level look of how we're doing on closing the gaps. So you can look at overall total enrollment, that sort of thing. You can also come back over here and click on Hispanic enrollment. Show you somewhat of a different picture of how we're doing on Hispanic enrollment versus total enrollment. So this will tell you where we need to put a lot of effort. I think that's not going to be news to anybody in this room, of where we need to focus some attention. Let's see. Almanac, for those that are not familiar with it, we have higher at Almanac, which has a lot of information. And we have, if you haven't seen it, we can get copies of it for you, I'm sure. We have statewide data. Here's all the data definitions. We have statewide data, national data, other statewide data, two-year publics, a lot of data. I'm sure, and I'll use a Steve Murdoch comment for those of you who know who Steve Murdoch is. As you can clearly see, But we'll get copies of the Almanac, and we'll have some copies of the Almanac available. Basically, it goes in through enrollment, degrees awarded, student characteristics, so what percent of your students are full-time, part-time, all of that type of thing. And so we actually have a lot of information. We'll get back to... Then we have, for each institution, we have a little breakout that has all of your information on its own, kind of in one area, so that if you're interested in what's being published about your institution. And I will tell you that putting out the Almanac, the first year, it was like, well, okay, don't know who all's going to use it. We've seen legislators and other college presidents and that sort of stuff carrying almanacs around. So people are using it. They're looking at it, even though all this data is actually also available in other places on our website. Some of the ones that are not quite as young as my children carry paper around all the time still. And so I carry paper around. They carry the papers around. They'll have the Almanac with them. What we try to do, they want to get this thing out early, especially during the legislative session. So you will be getting a lot of push to get the data in so that we can get information produced in the Almanac. We have made the decision that by the middle of February, we're doing a cutoff. So anybody's fall data that's not certified by the middle of February, not sure your data is going to be in the Almanac or not. We are really going to be pushed, and we are being pushed, not only just internally for our own getting things out, but we are getting a lot of questions, need timely information from legislators. So this is another one of those got to have the data things. Carrot that Gary just talked about is on here. You can get to that on here. You can get to the accountability system. Courses and program inventory is another place you can get to. I don't know how many of you are familiar. We have the online institutional resumes. These were actually prescribed in legislation 2 sessions ago. They added to it this session. So you can select your college. There's one that's for prospective students and parents, another one that's for legislators. And you can look on it. The information in there was determined, it's in statute, what gets put out there. And you will see little bitty print because it was also put in statute that it can only be 1 page. So they want a whole lot of information, but they want it all on 1 page. So sometimes it gets really small. So this is the one for parents. It talks about the cost. It talks about degrees awarded, student success, 3-year, 4-year, 6-year graduation rates, that sort of thing. So then the one for legislators tends to have more how much you received for appropriations, how much you received, what type of expenditures you had. So it has slightly different information, but it is still, again, 1 page. So that has been kind of almost a joke around here. I wouldn't say a joke. Sort of a joke about make sure everything's 1 page. You can't go below 1 page, beyond 1 page. There's like I said, there's all sorts of things. There's TSI reports, ASAFs. So lots of information out here.